Cater Dallas Fort Worth and 91.3 KYJC Commerce.
Portions of KDKR programming do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, are you paying too much in fees? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Afternoon, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Hey, if you got a question for me, please go to the website, and there's a couple of ways to get your questions answered. First, there is a Q&A that you can go through. Send us an email, and we'll get you taken care of that way. Or if it's a little bit more involved, you need to, and really need to talk about it, you can sign up for a phone call, and we'll get you taken care of that way. A couple of different ways to get your information, all at prudentmoney.com. Well, I found something very interesting today, and I don't know that I knew that it was happening. We've talked about, it's been a while since we've talked about it, but we've talked about the cryptocurrency, and at what point do we get a really good idea of how crypto is going to be regulated? Because it does make a big difference. Not that it's not regulated right now. It's not near where it needs to be from the standpoint of regulations go. So this we'll call it a battle on Congress has really started to move. And this was really pretty predictable that this was going to happen this way, because you have on one side, you have the politicians electing to overregulate crypto as a security or as you would a stock, versus maybe underregulate it as you would gold, and more of your regulation coming from the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. All that means is that it's regulation light. And on the tough regulation aspect of it would be the SEC. And so you've got a bill out. I can't remember what it's called. The title of it. The bill is in Congress in the House, and it's very light on the regulation. This would be very pro crypto, and there's a chance that it gets through the House and goes into the Senate, where it's probably going to die. That's why you didn't see crypto taking off or anything. But it's just the first 2 or 3 steps that are being taken to get some movement in this debate on what do you do with crypto? How do you regulate it? And that's another reason I think that you'll see why crypto will never be a currency. As you look at the U.S. dollar, I mean, I guess you could say the U.S. dollar is regulated, but it's not regulated from the standpoint of the regulations you see towards the security. It's just like, and I'll give you another good example, is the regulatory commission that regulates insurance in the state of Texas. I mean, it's very regulatory light, and that's why really there's a problem, in my opinion, with insurance products and annuities and that kind of thing. Nothing like the SEC. The SEC is tough. So the answer probably is, and I'll keep you posted on this, but the answer probably is not to go with the full-blown power of the SEC, not to go with regulatory light with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, but go in the middle. and have a realistic way of regulating crypto. It's going to be interesting, and I think today was kind of your first baby steps towards getting something done and getting investors an idea of how this should be regulated. So let me ask you a question. Are you paying too much in fees? Today, more than ever, consumers and investors are looking hard at fees where they can potentially save money. And that's what happens when you have inflationary times. Things are more expensive. You're just looking where you can cut back. So there's a couple of things to consider. The first one is fees do matter and should be a matter of importance. To fees don't really matter, and I don't think that's the answer to it either. I don't think the answer is that fees are the only thing that you focus on, but you'll see that really in some regulatory circles. To fees, it's just no big deal. I mean, I think that no matter where you sit on what side you sit on as far as fees matter to you, fees don't matter to you, that you really need to know what you're getting charged and why that is the case. But here's some things to consider though when it comes to fees. The first one is, are you getting something for those fees? Are they reasonable charges? I've seen, generally speaking, for when it comes to managed money, what I mean by that is that if you hire somebody to manage your investments, depending on how much you have with them, they're going to charge you a fee, probably starting out about 1.5% and going down as you increase that value. I've seen, and I know some people who charge anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4%. And how they're getting away with that, I have no idea. But it's pretty amazing when you look at it, because that's just, in my opinion, way overboard. If the money if your investments, if an advisor is proposing to charge a fee on your investments, and you're sitting in your 401k plan, you've left your company, or what a lot of people don't know is that you can move a 401k plan if you are older than 59 and a half to an IRA, which can be some great benefit to that, especially since that's so potentially close to retirement as well. Are you making a parallel move? That's, to me, one of the biggest questions. So let's give you an example. If your money is sitting in a 401k, you have it allocated like we've talked about in the past. You have it split up between stocks and bonds and maybe cash or money market or stable value, but you've got a definite plan spread out. And you get approached by an advisor, and the advisor says, well, you should, now that you're not working at XYZ company, you should move that money over to me and let me manage it for you. Come to find out, this individual is not doing hardly any more than you were doing. He's allocating the investments, rebalancing at the end of the year. And so you're just getting kind of the same thing. So the question is, what am I getting for charging this fee? It's a parallel move. We talked about don't worry about the fees. What I find is, to the extremes, you have people that don't worry about the fees. Well, most people who don't worry about the fees don't worry about the investments. They don't worry about the investments. They don't really worry about finances. It's just not a big value on their on the value board. But then there's the people who are so preoccupied about fees. We'll talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. But the bottom line is, you got to be at peace with the fees you are paying, and that's important. And I always want to talk about that, and always want to keep that at the center of our conversations. Is that the whole end goal is for you to have the peace that you can only get from God on anything that you're doing as a student, as hopefully a prudent steward, a student too, but prudent steward of what God has blessed you with. And because that is what opens up the door to decision making. You know, one of the things you always want to keep in mind, and we'll continue to talk about this and have this conversation, is that you never want to take and make a decision without God's peace in your heart, in your life. It may be scary, it may be stressful, but at the end of the day, you know you're doing what you feel that God is leading you to do. Now, you might be thinking that, do I really want to take my decision-making that seriously when it comes to money? And I would say absolutely. I would say that God wants to be involved in everything that you're making decisions on. That's a whole nother story. But specifically about when it comes to money, because we have the stewardship responsibility. I talked about this yesterday. I won't rehash. But we do have this responsibility to be good stewards of whatever He has given us, and He has given us everything. We'll talk more about that. This is Bob Brooks. We are up against a break. Stick around. I'll be right back. Hello, this is Bob Brooks. Proverbs 22:3 and Proverbs 27:12 are the exact same verse word for word. I call them the stewardship verses of risk. A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. On the Prudent Money Radio Show, we teach about risk, how to identify it, how to figure it out, and what to do about it. We believe that to be a prudent steward, you have to be a good risk manager. Listen to the Prudent Money Radio Show on Bible School Radio 91.3. Prudent Money, home of the modern-day steward movement.
This is Rob Randall, your host and teacher of the Invisible War radio program. The Invisible War is the study of God's Word on how to walk in Christ's victory in the spiritual battles we face against the powers of darkness. Join me every Sunday morning at 9 right here on KDKR and KYJC in Commerce, your station for life.
Hi, I'm Pastor Mike Fabarez, Bible teacher on Focal Point. If you ever wanted to corner a pastor and ask him your personal or profound questions about the Bible, about God, about the Christian life, well, now you can. I'm taking your calls and answering your questions live on the radio, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. So join me, Mike Fabarez, to hear unfiltered answers on Ask Pastor Mike Live. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. right here on KDKR.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Talking about fees and putting fees into perspective. Now, as I was saying before the break, there's two main levels of fees. Commissions, which are really starting to go by the wayside as a way, as compensation. And you're starting to see more, at least on the brokerage end, not so much on the insurance end, but the brokerage end. I don't, even though I think something will be done to the commission structure on insurance products, I don't think that that's ever going to go away as far as the type of compensation. But asset management fees, and what you charge in fees. And all of this is very important to the regulators. And we've talked about this, but it's good to bring this back into the conversation as we talk more about it. This is where the whole debate of the fiduciary standard and what that is, and I almost feel ridiculous defining this, because you shouldn't need a definition to know that this is the way it should be. But a fiduciary standard is when the advisor puts the best interest of the client ahead of his or her own. Now, that shouldn't, it's just one of those things where that's the way it should be to begin with, right? But there is a real problem on some fronts. My understanding is that this is a 1,000-page or plus document on how to do this, and boy, I wish I could cut that down to 2 pages, because I really think that to fix this problem would take about 2 pages, not 1,000 plus. But that's a different story. So I've heard, I was talking about yesterday, and I want to bring this back up again, that there's this radio show where actually it's an out-of-town firm, but they're headquartered in and out of town, but they have branches here. And the guy that's president of the company does the radio spots. And he says, we have fiduciary advisors. And I don't know if that term will take off or not, but I almost promise you that if a regulator heard that, would not allow that to be in a commercial, because there's no such thing as a fiduciary. It's not a title. It's not something you earn. It's something you're supposed to be. That's like saying, "Hey, I'm an honest advisor." Is exactly what it's saying. Fiduciary advisor. I thought that one I haven't come across until that commercial. I am under the fiduciary standard, and I am required to. And that's the reason that you put somebody else's interest above your own interest. Just because the law says it doesn't mean that there should be a free pass. So in other words, if you say to the client, and it's really important that you understand this, I'll tell you why in a minute. From a fiduciary standpoint, you shouldn't get a free pass and with the advisor saying, I'm a fiduciary advisor, whatever they want to say, and then the clients should not all of a sudden go, oh, well, you're a fiduciary. That just clears up everything. That makes me want to trust you. Please don't do that. Don't do. It's like giving an advisor a free pass. One of the things that if this rule is supposed to go into effect in September, we'll see if it does. But if it does, I would expect that, and this is what I will be doing, is writing a formal report on each new client as to why this makes sense and why this is worth the fee and all the details. And this is why they're going to change a lot of the compensation aspects of the business, and this is why a lot of advisors are going to either not make it or they're just going to leave and they're going to give up, which causes another problem, which is too few of advisors that are there to help. So I'll keep you posted as to when this goes into effect, but if I were a new client, I would want to know, okay, well, tell me why, from a fiduciary standard, why you've recommended what you've recommended. A powerful question. So let's take a look at some specific situations that you could say, wow, that is really not in their best interest. But if the client is okay with it, is there a problem? That I can't tell you because I'm not a part of the SEC. But here, let's start out with 529 plans. A 529 plan, you put the money in, you add money along the way, your child is going through high school, junior high and high school, and you're saving through college. It's the most popular way to save for college. Do you need to pay an advisor a commission to set one of these up? That's the question. Especially when most of them are age related, and they take more risk at the younger ages, and they back off a risk as they get closer. Now, I'm not a real big fan of those plans to begin with, but there's a lot of people who use them, and so I post the question. The question is this worth paying a commission when your advisor really doesn't need to do anything? I mean, I'll give you a good example. Fidelity Advisor is a commission mutual fund classification. Let me back it up and say it a different way. There's two different sides to Fidelity as a brokerage company. They have an advisor side that's run on commissions. And then they have what's called a retail side. Actually, they got three sides, and they have a fee-based money management side. But you can get the almost exact same product on the retail side without paying a commission as you can on the Fidelity Advisor side, paying a commission on a product that doesn't really require that the advisor do anything. Hope that makes sense. And so I look at that, and it just amazes me that they have such a conflict of interest with these two different types of products. Now, let's say that your client says, you tell the client, well, this is why I'm charging a fee. Disclose that they could get this exact same thing without charging a fee. On the retail side, it's no commissions, no nothing. And the client says, I'm okay with that. Would you please sign off on this and that I'm getting paid to do this, and the value that you see is having me as an advisor on this. And I'm not even sure if that will fly with these new fiduciary standards. A lot of advisors are just kind of trying to figure it all out. Same thing goes with the target date funds, the lifestyle funds. They're supposed to adjust and move by themselves while you have them invested, while you're heading towards retirement, and there's not really anything there for an advisor to do. Or you could pay a commission to do the same thing. So it really comes down, and I think it comes down to, is the client been educated on their options? And after being educated, and as there's been full disclosure on their options. And if that's the case, then it didn't seem to me, whether you agree with it or not, to each his own. I know there's a lot of times that people are just not very secure about money when it comes to the ins and outs and investments, and they want that extra level, so they may pay a commission on it. So that's kind of the way that works. Then there is, I'm probably not going to have time to go into this, but the index fund versus the active mutual fund management fund, and the debate that goes along there. I'll come back to this the next time we get a chance. Tomorrow, Mark Pfeiffer is going to be on with me. We'll readjust on Thursday and come back to this. But people who are real big into index funds look at the answer as which one is better. It's a yes or a no. When I think personally they're both great options, but we'll talk more about that on Thursday. Hey, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.